Alright, so in this video we are going to discuss guidelines 9 through 12. And generally in these guidelines they go over the core information of the article that you're going to be researching. So we'll go ahead and get started on that. And first we are going to talk about how to determine the core information of the article that you are researching. You'll see this under Guideline 9 in Chapter 4. And why is this important, you're asking? Well, we have to decide what information is useful and how useful it is. What degree is it useful to us in the research that we're doing for our paper? We have to figure out to what extent this subject has been researched, what type of studies have been conducted, what type of testing has been done, and how has it been done? Was it done adequately? Was it done sufficiently? We have to really dive into it and make sure that we figure out all this. In addition, we have to make sure that there are no holes in the data or the information that is provided to us. If there are holes in it, we have to figure out if this is an article that we can use or if we should continue to search for a different article because it wouldn't be sufficient for what we need. In addition, you want to look for the scientific connections in the article. You want to figure out how the articles show support for the methods that were used and the data that was collected. You want to look at the survey groups. You want to look at how they were studied. You want to look at the viabilities of the outcome, even the advancement on data collection. So as we go on, we are going to discuss finding the support for the data collected. How are we going to find out the information that we need with the data that we collected? So I went ahead and I researched an article. This article is on chronic kidney disease. The link is right below it on your screen. You can go ahead and pull it up if you'd like to follow along. And in this article, on page 1, we can see that there were over 7,000 patients. There were actually 7,119 patients included in the study. That group of patients is a very large number of patients that were surveyed. And this should let everyone know who's researching this topic that there was in fact a sufficient pool of participants in this study. This would tell me that whatever the outcome was of this study, it is viable because there was such a large amount of patients studied. Now, in this article, there's also something else important about the group that was included. So if you look at table 2 on page 6, and I'll let you go ahead and flip down to that, we can go ahead and look at the table and we can see the different groups that were studied. And on that table it has an age group. And the age group ranges from 18 years old to 82 years old. And generally in each section of ages, how they're broken down, there's generally the same amount of people that were studied. So this gives you a very wide variety, adding yet again another layer of validity to the test results that they received while they were doing this study. So after that, we need to also determine the deficiencies of the article. So we need to figure out, how do these articles show deficiencies, if in fact they do, in the methods that they used or the data that they collected. What information will not be useful to you, because we don't even want to include that in our paper. So we need to go ahead and we need to look at the substantiation of their claims. We need to look at the compatibility of the data. We need to make sure that they actually have sufficient document data in their research. Look for holes in the research. Now, finding the weakness of the articles can be a little bit challenging, and you have to go ahead and use just your kind of sleuthing skills sometimes and figure out maybe areas that they have overlooked. So again, I looked at this article. I found this, and there's a link for you on the page. This is regarding cigar smokers. And in this article, there were, the sample was 47 smokers used. Now, we saw in the last article that we looked at, there were over 7,000 people that were patients and that were being studied. Well, in this one, there were only 47 smokers that were used. This is an astonishingly low number when you compare it to the number of cigar smokers that the Center of Disease Control and Prevention quotes. Now, I went on the CDC, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. I went on their website and got information regarding cigar smokers, and I'll quote them right now. They are quoted in saying, in 2013, an estimated 12.4 million people in the United States aged 12 years or older were current cigar smokers, end quote. Now that is from the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. So if there are 12.4 million people, I mean that's an estimate, but 12.4 million people in the US that are current cigar smokers, and this study only studied 47 smokers, that would tell me that this is an extremely inadequate representation of subjects for this study. If I were doing a study, or I'm sorry, if I were doing a paper on this, I would probably go ahead and look for a different article to use. Probably wouldn't use this one for the simple fact that I wouldn't feel like there were enough people that were studied during it. So after we figured that out, we will go ahead and look at declaration versus illustration. Now this will be guideline 11 in your book. We need to figure out what is the difference. Why is it important? When we refer to the Cambridge Dictionary, we see that they define declaration as, and I quote, an official, usually written public statement, end quote. So that's what the Cambridge Dictionary says that a declaration is. Now, if we go ahead and look at what an illustration is, the Cambridge Dictionary states that definition is, and I quote, an example that shows something, end quote. And we'll go ahead and we will look at this further. And declarative, illustrative, what do they mean? What is the difference? Why is it important? These are things that are going to be extremely useful to you while you're doing your research. So in this exercise, exercise 4.1, we're going to figure out if the sentences are declarative or illustrative. So we will go ahead and go through these one by one. In the first one, the first question, the first statement, it has been proven through research that the first 3 years are critical in a child's development. Is that declarative or illustrative? And you can go ahead and write these down as we're going along. And after we go through them, we will go ahead and discuss which is which and why. Number 2, he was thought to have gone to the grocery store for tomatoes today. And then number 3, the small brown kitten might be afraid of the veterinarian because it's shaking. And then the fourth and final one, the CDC has provided corroborated information with the statistical data it has collected about the effects of smoking. Now I'll give you a minute to go ahead and finish writing down your answers, illustrative or declarative. And the first one is illustrative. It's illustrative because it has been proven through research. They're giving you concrete information that is illustrating their point that this is correct. It has been proven through research that whatever happened, whatever the research is telling you. Number 2 is declarative, and it is declarative because he was thought to have gone. If you're just making a general statement like that, there's no concrete research, there's no data, no information, it's just he's thought to have gone to the grocery store. That is a declarative statement. The next one, it is declarative again. And this one, again, we're making a statement. Even though it really does look like this kitten is afraid of the vet, because it's shaking, We don't know that for sure. Has there been testing? Has there been, anything done? We don't know that. So it's declarative. And then the fourth one is illustrative. That one is illustrative because it's corroborated information with statistical data. So that one is giving you concrete information about the data that was collected about the effects of smoking. So again, the first one is illustrative, the second one is declarative, the third is declarative, and the fourth is illustrative. So now we will move on, and you can go ahead and use this next part as an addition to this. The next part talks about signal words that you want to look for when you're researching, when you're looking at articles, so that you can figure out what is what type of statements are you reading. It can be difficult when you're reading through so much and you're researching and you're intimidated by the articles and you want to get it right because you need a good grade, and you just want to get your research done. So we want to look for some signal words. We want to make sure we pay attention to how the sentence is worded so we can make sure we can determine the validity of the statement. It is very, very important that the researcher is able to figure out between the two, declarative and illustrative, when they're gathering the information for the research paper. So below declarative, I have the word might. I might go to the store. I might get an A. I might get a job. Those are all just statements that I'm making. Under illustrative, I have the word statistically. Now, I statistically have a high GPA. That is something that can be proven. I statistically did well on my exam. It can be proven. So those are two words that you'll want to make sure that you pay close attention to. So if you want to go ahead, and I'll give you a little bit of time, or you can pause this and think of a couple other words for declarative that you might find as signal words, or illustrative that you might find as signal words. They can be words, they can be phrases, and then you can go ahead and pause this, and then when we go on, I'll go ahead and give you a couple more examples so that you can go ahead and use those. All right, so now we are moving on. We're going to go ahead and give you a few more examples of signal words. Under declarative, supposed to. That is another declarative term or statement. I'm supposed to get a good grade. I'm supposed to go to the store. Just statements again that we're making. I should. Should is another one. I should have gotten a driver's license. I should have gone to the store today. Those are, again, are just statements, declarative statements. We already talked about illustrative. Statistically, I gave you that on the last slide. So some other ones are proven. I have proven that I am highly educated. And that can be proven by information, by a degree, by test results. Again, and then after that, reinforced by data. Another illustrative term. We can say that this kitten is in good health because it is reinforced by data. I mean, I don't know if you would ever hear anybody say that, but you could say it because you would have test results, you would have exams by doctors that reinforce the data of what you're saying. So that would again be another illustrative term that you could go ahead and use, or that you would see in your articles that would signal you to know what type of statement that is. Then as we go on, there are similarities in articles that you will come across. Generally, when you're looking for articles on a certain subject, there have been studies done previously and then new studies that have been conducted. So you have to make sure that you can thoroughly understand and interpret your current study, but you also have to make sure you take into consideration any connections that could be associated with it and prior studies that were conducted. So this is guideline 12 that we're going over. So you want to make sure that you interpret your current study. You want to make sure that those connections are made. So here you'll find an article about caffeine and ethanol drinking. And there is a link that you can go ahead and pull up if you'd like to and follow along. In this study, there were portions that were included in the article. When this article was originally published, it shows that the researchers studied the effects that caffeine had with rats and how it promoted ethanol drinking. So that's generally what that first article is about. So then if you go ahead and pull up the second article, and again, a study on caffeine and ethanol drinking, but this one, portions of this study were included in the article that was published at a later date. The second study used the prior research of that first article that you pulled up to further demonstrate their point. So they were able to back up their claims on a recent study with information that was gathered from a previous study. So again, these are articles that you could use in combination with each other. These are articles that you could use separately from each other. Anything that helps you make your point in your research paper that promotes the idea that you have. So that's the end of the guidelines 9 through 12. And on the next video, we will go over guidelines 13 through 16. And have a great day.